Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine in an old shop? A feeling that the antiques around you aren't just objects, but silent witnesses to forgotten stories. What if one of them decided it was time to teletone? In a quiet corner of the city, tucked away from the relentless march of time, there was an antique shop. This wasn't just any shop. It was a sanctuary of stillness, a museum where every clock on the wall had surrendered to silence. Their hands were frozen, their pendulums motionless, as if the very concept of time had been politely asked to wait outside. The air inside was thick, heavy with the scent of old wood, dusty paper, and something else, something metallic and cold. This was the domain of a man known only as the Collector. He wasn't just a shopkeeper. He was a curator of lost moments, a guardian of things that once were. Tonight, he was examining his newest acquisition, a find so rare it made his heart race. A clockwork doll from the Victorian-era, its porcelain face a mask of serene indifference, its glass eyes holding a depth that seemed almost aware. It sat on his workbench, a masterpiece of brass gears and delicate lace, a relic from a time when craftsmanship was akin to magic. As the Collector worked, a strange hum began to fill the quiet shop. It was a low, resonant frequency that seemed to vibrate not in the air, but deep within his bones. He paused, looking up at the silent clocks, his brow furrowed. The sound grew, a mechanical purr that was both fascinating and deeply unsettling. His eyes were drawn back to the doll. A faint, rhythmic glow pulsed from beneath its lace dress, a soft, mechanical heartbeat emanating from the intricate gears within its chest. The hum intensified, and the air grew colder, more oppressive. The shadows in the shop seemed to stretch and deepen, clinging to the corners like grasping fingers. The Collector felt a primal fear begin to prickle at the back of his neck. This was no ordinary mechanism. The doll, which he had so carefully placed on the workbench, was no longer in the same position. It had shifted just a fraction, its head now tilted slightly, as if listening to a secret only it could hear. He tried to dismiss it. A trick of the light, the strain of a long day. But the cold dread coiling in his stomach told him otherwise. He took a hesitant step back, his gaze locked on the doll. The rhythmic glow in its chest pulsed steadily, a mechanical heart beating in the oppressive silence. He was no longer a collector examining an object. He was prey being watched by a predator that wore a porcelain smile. The silence was shattered by a sudden, sharp click. The Collector flinched, his eyes darting around the room. It came from the display case he had prepared for the doll. Slowly, as if moving through water, he turned. And then he saw it. The doll was no longer on his workbench. It was inside the glass case, sitting perfectly upright. But that wasn't what made the blood freeze in his veins. Its head was no longer tilted. It was facing him directly. Its glass eyes, once staring into the middle distance, were now locked onto his, a gaze so direct and void of emotion it felt like an accusation. A choked gasp escaped his lips. He stumbled backward, his carefully arranged world crashing down around him literally. His arm caught a stack of antique books, sending them tumbling. He tripped over a fallen candelabra, the clang of metal on wood echoing like a scream in the dead quiet shop. He scrambled away, kicking over a small table, shattering a priceless vase. But amidst the chaos he created, one thing remained utterly, terrifyingly still: the doll. It sat upright, its expression unchanged, its glass eyes fixed on him with an unnerving intensity. They were like to polished stones, reflecting his own terror-stricken face back at him. The room felt like it was closing in, the silent clocks on the walls mocking his panic. He was a prisoner in his own sanctuary, hunted by the very thing he had sought to possess. He was the Collector, the master of these forgotten things. But as he stared into those unblinking eyes, he understood a horrifying truth. He was no longer the one in control. The night stretched into an eternity of fear. He huddled in the far corner of his shop, surrounded by the debris of his collection, his eyes never leaving the doll in its glass prison. He watched, waiting for it to move, to blink, to do anything. But it just sat there, a silent, porcelain sentinel, its gaze a physical weight pressing down on him. Sleep was impossible. Every creak of the old building, every rustle of the wind outside, was the sound of its approach. As the first, faint rays of dawn crept through the grimy windows, a strange calm descended. The oppressive weight in the air seemed to lift, replaced by the soft, dusty light of a new day. The Collector, exhausted and hollowed out by fear, slowly pushed himself to his feet. He looked toward the display case. It was empty. A wave of relief, so powerful it almost brought him to his knees, washed over him. It was a dream, a hallucination brought on by obsession and fatigue. He let out a shaky laugh, the sound alien in the morning quiet. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair and began to survey the damage from his frantic night. But as he turned toward the front of the shop, the laughter died in his throat. There, standing behind the main counter, was the doll. It was perfectly positioned, one delicate porcelain hand resting on the polished wood, as if ready to greet the first customer of the day. It hadn't been a dream. He stood frozen, his mind refusing to process what he was seeing. He tried to scream, to run, but his limbs wouldn't obey. A strange stiffness was creeping through him, starting in his fingertips and toes, a cold numbness that felt like setting clay. He looked down at his hands. They were pale, unnaturally still, the skin taking on the texture of fine porcelain. His gaze lifted, and in the reflection of a silver tray, he saw his own eyes, wide and glassy, no longer blinking. He was the newest addition to the collection. A motionless figure sitting in a forgotten chair, an exquisite piece with tired, intelligent eyes, forever frozen in a moment of terror. The shop was quiet once more, bathed in the gentle morning light. Behind the counter, the Clockwork doll stood as the new owner, and from within its chest, a soft, rhythmic ticking began, counting the seconds of its new, timeless existence. If you ever find yourself drawn to an old, forgotten object, remember this story. Sometimes, when you acquire a piece of the past, you're not just buying an antique, you're entering into an exchange. And you must always ask yourself, who is truly collecting whom? Thanks for watching. If you enjoy stories that explore the darkness lurking in the corners of our world, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You never know what you might find next.